There we go. All right. Hey, what's up? What's up? Man, I did the whole test run and everything before I got started. And then I guess it went into like standby mode or something. And just, of course, my wife's awake and making play. Yeah, I reckon that's a thing. But yeah, today I think was going to be a little bit different. Although I did start working on those Operex. I've got them, almost almost, well, I got them to shaping point. That's where I got them. So all I got to do is get them ready to be shaped and whatnot. But yeah, those are gonna be sick. I think they're gonna go pretty quick. People really like the Operex stuff, and I don't blame them. That stuff is neat. That stuff is very cool. It's so hard, and it's well, it's a doozy to actually turn and whatnot. But um, today is actually going to do a little bit of, I don't know, like a reflection, a look through the ages where I started. At least that's kind of what I was thinking. That way I can chill, hang out, chat, but it's not a little bit of show and tell, but it won't just be like turning the whole time. I don't know. It just seemed like a interesting, uh, a different route. But let me get this set up right quick. Uh, but yeah, the plan is to, show some of the things that I made really early on, um, and then move into uh, the tools that I used early on, which is kind of kind of funny beginnings. So I think kind of going through that will be a pretty good segue into making like the most accessible tools and being able to make a bespoke or kitless pen with the least amount of tools possible. So I think those would be pretty interesting things for people that are, you know, thinking about doing it in the first place. So anyway, those are at least my thoughts on it. We'll see how it actually goes. Let me turn this down. Set. Good. Boom. Cool. So, yeah, and I'm also going to be taking notes as I go through all this because I actually want to make a little bit more of an organized video on that type of thing. So, um, I do have some things that some sort of sequence, but that'll be kind of the direction I'd like to take it. But anyway, let's see. All right. Well, I think that'll be the Kevin. Where do you think I should start? Yeah, we'll just start from some of the stuff that I used to make. A video about taps and dies in the future. Yeah, the beginning. Since time was time. Well, let's see. About taps and dies, I don't know if I will actually do that because those are things that people like to do kind of their own specific things on. So the different things that I use would not necessarily be the things that other people would use. You know what I mean? Um, so there is that. So some people, when they're using like a M10 tap and die set, then they're going to go for the respective, well, drill bit and then make the tenon appropriate to what the threads and the pitches are. But that doesn't really lead itself to the fit that I typically go for when I make those. So it's a little interesting in that regard because you could look it up online and it'll tell you like the best bit or drill bit for this type of thing, and what you're going to get is it's going to fit. And I'll go over things like that once I get to the tools, but yeah. So it'll probably be a bit of a scattered video. That way I can ramble for a bit, have the stuff, and then maybe move on to the other stuff. But anyway, so I don't, for the live, I don't intend on starting at the very, very beginning. That way it makes it interesting for the video. I'll kind of talk about that when I get into the video aspect of it. But it will be things kind of, yeah, just kind of working my way through everything. But yeah. Anyway, I guess first things first, Abby is now in San Fran. She got there today and doing good. Just me and the kids had a open house for the kids. We got to meet their teachers and whatnot. So if your kids are starting up school, hope you're having fun with that. How was the trip? Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about that, did I? I went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. My oldest daughter and I, and we went to the Ripley's Aquarium, and then we did a few of the other things at Ripley's. The Illusion Lab, the Horror House, the Magic. I think it's the Magic one, but the aquarium was awesome. The shark tunnel was definitely the coolest thing. So it was a short trip, but it was fun. Got to log some more miles on the bike. Well, the Bluetooth worked for her, and so she could listen to her music. So that worked out pretty well. But getting it connected to the bike still, it was going to take more time than I wanted to put into it because we were trying to leave. Because I had just finished up a set of pins for Abby to sand and do other things too. But once I was done with that, it was time to depart. So didn't want to spend too much time there doing that. Yeah. But yeah. Thanks for asking. And I mean, it sounded pretty good. It was able to function pretty easily, and it wasn't very expensive. So yeah, no complaints on that front. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. But then, so I guess she messed with the buttons too much, and for some reason it made it so she lost the music. And so for like a good hour or so, she didn't have any tunes. So that was kind of funny. But I can't just know that. She got to tell me. So she had some time to reflect, I guess. Silver lining there. But okay, so I've got this set up over here. I've got my camera. You can kind of see the camera here set up, and this is actually facing a binder that shows some of the pins that I worked on. So I'm going to start with some of the kits, at least the ones that I've got left, because a lot of them didn't survive or they got given away. So, but the other thing is I didn't make very many of them either. So there's also that. I didn't make very many kit pins, but I think I made 20 or so. I think I made about 20 pins or so. But here we go. I'm going to take a look at some of these. These are the these are the executive pin kits, and then this is actually something different, but I don't remember the name of it. But these are the executive pins. They're simple pins, and I actually started with slimline pins, but I quickly realized that if I was looking at it from a production point of view, then it's simpler to do a single body, a single barrel. No, kits were not my thing, and really I didn't want to turn kits in the first place. I just did because that seemed like the natural place to start. But this one is actually one of Abby's earliest blanks as well. So it's funny taking a look at that, and our finishing process is way different. You probably can't see it, but just a lot of micro scratch, well, not even micro. There's lines, the centrifugal lines on those that you sand by turning the lathe off and going across left to right laterally. It looks like wood. It's resin. It's resin. But yeah, very simple. And it looks nice. Does it unscrew? Oh, okay. This one unscrews. But the mechanism is also pretty interesting. So I'll have to revisit that potentially. But the actual mechanism is in the cap here. Unlike slimlines, which is in the middle part. So pretty interesting. That was one, and then this is like Area 51 or a green alien or something like that. It was another one. Some things that I'd like to point out is I was pretty OCD about the actual tip being where it's supposed to when you press them together. You got to make sure that these things are like, it retracts all the way inside, but it also extends with just a tiny bit sticking out is how I like them to be. So that was the target for those. Here's another one. Again, I don't really know what this one's called. It's a similar mechanism. The cap pulls off, probably even unscrews. Yeah. It unscrews similarly. This is a Parker style refill. Yeah. All that jazz. I just thought it was a clean, simple kit that, as I mentioned before, if you're trying to do production runs of anything, you want them as simple as possible. So these are later on. Move those back here. All right, so this is actually one of the the most expensive kits I ever made. And I think we called this one Sith Lord or something like that. This is a Cogent fountain pen. It's a Cogent kit. Never been used. It's an iridium point, which is just the material that they dip the tip in and then split it, and it gives it a smoother surface for writing. This one also can post like so, which is pretty interesting. Oh. Yeah, the Cogent kit, really cool kit. Very expensive. I think it was like 25 bucks or something. And I just never sold it. But I didn't try very hard, to be fair. This one, I was testing out a white acrylic on a slim line. I don't like acrylic. Also, little nuances, things that I really hate is when there's enough overhang right here. It should be flush with the base of the cone here, but it's not. So you got to start somewhere, but getting calipers was something that helped me quickly understand or be able to get them to where I wanted them to be. Same thing for the pen belt here. So still had a good distance when pressing it together. However, like I said, I either underturned or overturned in some cases, or I didn't use the barrel trimmer far enough down. So there's also that. So this has a bit of overhang. You can see white just past the metal hardware, and that just means that I didn't barrel trim it down far enough. So darn pen kits. Gotta say, this is probably one of the cooler ones. It's got that cat eye or chatoyant look in it. And this is also acrylic. Again, it's got the little bit overpressed, but a little slimline there. And then this is a Slimline Pro. This one is actually one of the first steps that you can get into creating tenons, believe it or not. So this particular pin kit, you can see this band right here where this part of the middle ring has pressed into it hard enough to cause it to rub. That means that I didn't turn it down far enough. Again, measuring would have taken care of that. And then the other thing is, like I said, you're cutting your first tenon that the cap or the the belt or the the belt, the pin ring just sits on. You could glue it. I just didn't, because I didn't see the need to. So I also didn't want to mess it up, and I wanted to be able to revisit it. But as most things, I never did. And probably won't. So there's that too. We'll come back to the pocket pins. Getting into when I started making custom pins, this is one of the things that's kind of interesting. So chat just a second for that. I wanted to make custom pins pretty much the whole time. Like, that's why I started turning. I wanted to be able to turn bowls, and then I also wanted to be able to turn the fountain pins and kitless pins. bespoke pins. So that was that was what I wanted to do. So combing the internet, trying to find stuff, and there wasn't really much around. So you do what you can with what you've got. So when I was talking about where I began with the kitless, I think, well, a lot of them didn't survive. First and foremost, a lot of them didn't survive. But the ones that did, uh, these are probably the best of them. The best of bad ones, we'll say. So this one actually looks like a pretty decent blank. The ratio of the pin itself is not good. So uh, just not good. You don't want the cap to be the same size as the barrel, really. It just doesn't look right, in my opinion. But you can see with these massive threads here, I started off with single start. These are 1/2 inch single start threads, and the section here is a pretty long section. But actually making a Parker pin is tough, because I had to get this like the exact right size, because I didn't incorporate like a spring or anything. So you have to get it just to the right size, and you can see that it's not quite so. And then you can also hear the ink rattling around on the inside. So I'd need to put like a bushing of some sort on the inside here to give it some pressure forward. But that would still make it a little bit of a spring writing thing, which wouldn't be terrible, but you know, you don't design something based on it not working how it's supposed to. At least those are my thoughts about that. This is another single start that was turned quite a bit thinner, but you'll be able to see how offset. I was going for a flush finish, but it is very offset, and it's also a single start. You can see I brought Excalibur, this big old section out of here. I don't know why I did this shape, but just to try out a different shape. None of these pins are all that comfortable, and they're also pretty darn heavy, because there's a lot of material that's still there that didn't need to be. But this is a 1/2 inch and this is a 3/8. So just put them together is how I made that. And then, you know, similarly for the cap, you just need to measure it and have it be deep enough to facilitate the section all the way to the end, as well as the tip. So another one of those. And then shortly after that is when I started getting into making pocket pins. So these are some of my earliest pocket pins that I made. This one here, well, I'll get to that one there in a second, but this one is one of the iterations that I did, but I messed up right there. You can see how far the ink refill's sticking out. And then also the section, because of how I supported it with the live center, it caused it to expand, and there wasn't fixing that at that point. So I liked, I didn't mind the model at the time, so I tried it again. So these are basically twinsies. You know, my measurements are a little off. So consistency is tough when you're just trying to figure stuff out. But I actually carried this particular one for a very long time, which is kind of embarrassing looking back at it. Like, I don't know if you're able to see that. Oh yeah, you can see that. You see it's fatter on this side versus this side. It's a little thinner on the end here than it is over here. And that's partially because of the drilling. But again, made it for a Parker refill. Another thing that you might notice about some pins that I made previously that I had that I'll point out again later is on the base of the section here. Let me get it close. The base of the section here, you can kind of see it flaring. Here, you can kind of see it flaring at the very bottom, and the reason that is because this was my mandrel when I turned it. So I had turned it like this on the lathe. I used the jaws to hold the barrel of the pen, and then I turned it on itself. That way I knew that it would fit how I wanted it to. So, and then the other thing is when I started trying to make them flush, I tried to turn them together and make it so I would turn the cap while it's still on the barrel here. So it was mounted in the lathe like this. This is the body and this is the cap. And I would turn the cap. That way it would be matched up with the the barrel of the pen. Yeah, I don't recommend that. It's not good. This is another one that. Is this the one? Okay, so I have broken this one. And that's a part of why it's really offset, as much as it is, at least. And then, oh, single start, geez, man. All right. So you can tell it's quite offset. It's a single start, but very, very offset. So I had cracked the pin at the base, I think, when I was like chasing the threads or something. And I tried to fix it with glue. And so I put it in there, and then I put the whole section and everything back in there together. And then, you know, I had a stupid moment. And then I tried to pull it out. And let's see. If you can see some of that, that's actually a part of my fingerprint because I took it out and my finger got glued to it. And so I peeled my finger off and it left some, well, my skin there. That's kind of this one of the funny stories about that one. And the other thing is that's not the first time I did it. So there's that. Let's see. Then this was my next one. I had never used I had never used vulcanized rubber before, the ebonite. And so I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to make my version of the pocket pin. And so this stuff looks cool, and it is cool, but it can also smell bad. It smells like um, sulfur, and my daughters called it my fart pen. This is actually when I got my triple start finally. So when I first got my triple start, I obviously had to learn that my tenons don't need to be this dang big. But I was actually carrying it a lot. I liked it. My threads weren't fantastic. Uh, they don't cross thread, but it goes pretty far before they actually engage, which is not really what you want. So I could essentially just trim it way down. But if I were to do that, then I'd have to start messing with the other dimensions of stuff as well. So this is configured for a Fisher refill, the Fisher space pin refill. And I also believe it's M12, and this is an M9. But yeah, everything went pretty well with this one, and it's really just the design that is a little unappealing. And then also the smell. So after I had done that, this was the next version that I had made, and this was my pocket pin after this one. Whoops. This was my pocket pin after this one was. Well, after this one, I guess. So it was this one, and then this one, and then this one. So made an ebonite one. Girls didn't like it, so I went back to this one, and then I came up with a different design, and that's what this one is. So basically, I was just making a pin around the ink stick, and thought it was pretty cool. I made them a lot thicker than I needed to, and I thought that I would need to make it more robust because of it being in my pocket, but I really didn't. I still think it's ended up being a pretty cool pen, and when I whipped it out, it was cool enough at the time. But I look at it and I'm just like, good grief, I could do better than that. And then I've got my current pocket pen that I've shown quite a few times. I like this. I like this design. Not a fan of the blank after I had gotten it all shaped out, but I only have so much time to be working on stuff for just me, I guess. This is a M12 tap and die for the tenon and the inside of the cap here, and then this is an M9. I had just gotten it, and I was figuring out how to use the M9. You can see that these threads are so much finer. So I don't particularly like the M9 by 0.75 threads because of how fine they are. You can see like the difference. This is an M10. This is an M10 by 1, and this is an M9 by 0.75. Those are they're tiny. Yeah, so it makes a pretty big difference. Anyway, I still made a pin out of it, and it grabs well enough to where it doesn't slip out. But right here, you can see that the section kind of overhangs the threads just a tiny little bit. And that really bothers me about this particular pin, but it's my pocket pin, and I can make it line up for the most part, starting here. Starting here. There we go. Oh, geez. Didn't even get to enjoy that with me. Here we go. So you get these lines, the whites and this line here together. And then it ends up starting back together. Quite a bit thinner. Definitely didn't need it as thick as I had the other one. Let's see. And then this one also lines up pretty much as well, which is pretty neat. It was not intentional. Let's see. I did a couple more iterations of the much smaller ones. So these two here. Abby's actually got one as well. So this one was going to be for her, and then this one was also going to be for her, but I just... So the problem with this one is when I unscrew it just a little bit, it gets really wobbly really fast. So I did a really mediocre job on those threads, and I won't, like, it'll hold, but it's not good enough for my liking. You can kind of tell that there's too much of a taper. I don't know if you actually can, but there is too much of a taper, and the threads don't actually start catching until halfway on. So you can see. But yep, and then made that. And it's a bummer because this one was going to be pretty cool. The cap could have definitely loosed a little bit more here. This one, I'll be honest, I just didn't finish it. But it too also has that wobble that I was talking about that I just don't care for. So that's why both of these were shelved. But they would work. I could give them as a gift to my kids or something. They're just reminders of my mess up. So let's see, we've got another design here that I was working on. Oh. Keep that one there for a second. This is... So this is while I was working on that other pin. Well, actually this pin. It didn't work out right. So it was back to the drawing board. Somebody had asked me to make a different kind of pin. So the different kind of pin that I ended up making here was a slip cap, but it's for a ballpoint. So it would go in and, you know, stay, and then it would also be postable. So pretty neat. And you couldn't even tell where the refill goes, but it's just back here. So that's where I put the refill. But yeah, that one, it got too thin and broke. So that's cool. And then, so that was a ballpoint. This is a fountain pen one. Let's see. Here we go. This is a fountain pen that was supposed to be like this, but I didn't make the end long enough, and I didn't make this part girthy enough for the other side. I made it girthy enough for this side, but it goes too far this way before it actually stops. So it puts the nib on the end of the pen. You don't want that. Yeah. Cool design to revisit later, potentially. Let's see. Another version of that was this one that didn't go as planned, but that's partly because of the resin, actually. The back part here was supposed to, and it's all cracked all the way up, made it too thin. But yeah, it was going to work. So this goes that way as well as this way, you know, which is pretty neat, pretty simple. You have, you know, the back and then the others, and it's a friction fit. So it actually had potential. I just haven't revisited this particular design. And then let's see, this is the last one I'll show for now before actually getting to something a little different. This is one that I was actually really proud of when I was done with it. This was actually one of the OG pins that I used to carry. I was like, yeah, I did good on this one. It was a single start, so it wasn't perfect. Come on. All right, that's about as good as it's going to get. But this guy here, I was like, man, this looks good. I got it just how I want it. And then I have it in one of my breast pockets, and I lean over. I remember exactly where I was when I did it. I was reaching over to pick something up from under the lathe, right over here, that way over there on the floor. And this pin fell out of my pocket, landed right on the cap, and then it broke the tenon. Yep. So that's not gonna work. But you know, I like the shape of it. I mean, still a little too big, really, but worked. It worked for then. Let's see. I played with some different shapes. You're really limited on the shapes that you can do when you turn things to certain diameters. But this one, not exactly the most ergonomic, but you could actually hold the pin all the way back here, and just pushing some of the shapes to the limit to see what I could do with accentuating curves, I guess. That'll probably not get finished. Looks cool. Ah, thanks. This was another one that was kind of the idea was to be able to hold it back here and here, depending on where you wanted to grip. But this is the section's way too long if you were going to do it like this. And then, the other thing is people probably aren't going to do that. But you got to try things out, have a little fun. This is when I used to make them as sticks. Because it's sad because the barrel is actually larger than the cap. And it looks pretty neat as far as like the blank goes, but I'd have to trim that down quite a bit. This is actually that same blank from before with a massive relief in the back there, and it's got a diamond cast section on it. So nope. it's just gonna live in here in my inbox, or my little case here. One more ebonite. This is pretty neat. Obviously these threads are very long. Not good. But looks cool. Ebonite's pretty easy to work with, so it's a nice material. But like I said, it smells pretty bad, and especially if you're not expecting it. This one's from a YouTube video that I did. This is, what is this? It's like from, what is that stuff called? It's like a marble. I've got a stick of it over there. I just can't remember what it's called. True Stone. Yeah. It's got the magnetic cap. I actually like the magnetic cap, and that it posts. So it's actually pretty nice. I'm not bothered by this. Yeah, that part, that doesn't bother me. Then the Duraclick EDCs. This one is mine because you can see the brass tube on the inside, which is a no-go. Yeah, got a lot of other stuff that did not quite survive, but we'll probably revisit some of these in the near future, for when I'm making a video of the 1/2 inch and 3/8 pin, which I don't know when I'm going to do that, but it's something that I've talked about that I have yet to do, and I reckon it's about that time. But as far as like where I began with the tools, oh lordy, let me hop over here and get my space set up right quick. So some of these I still use, and some of these obviously have been decommissioned, but I keep them for, I don't know, I guess to make a YouTube video on it. Let's see. Okay. I guess I'll get them a little more organized here. So that here, here. That'll be good enough. Okay. Let me drop this down just a little bit. Okay. All right. So this is basically, aside from the jaws and the Jacobs chuck, this is all I really needed when I started making pins. It took me a while to get to this point, but this is basically what I started with. So, so for the tenon, I used a plug cutter for both the section and the barrel. And then I used a half inch tap and die set. Oh yeah, I gotta get those right. They're just right. They're right in here. So depending on the look that you're going for, I would say. So we've got our 3/8, then we've got our half inch, and I've got the half inch by 20, and then this is the half inch by 13. These two are for the ends of Parker refills. So this here is basically going to be a video on its own, but this I guess will be like a little early bird special kind of thing, given the rundown of what it is that I used. But anyway, let me grab some pin parts here. Yeah. Okay. Let's grab another. Here we go. Okay. So we can actually take a look at all these different pin parts here and see. So like this is a 3/8 by 24. Pretty sure. Yeah, this is what was used to cut those threads. So is pretty simple. So then you just need to make, you know, the hole for that, which is this. You know, you use a 3/8 bit for the 3/8 hole. The 1/2 inch was a little bit of a different story, but we can, you know, talk about that specifically a little later. So you can see inside maybe you can see that these are the 1/2 inch by 13 on this side, and this is the 1/2 inch by 20. And the difference of those is this is the 20. So that'll go in the 20. And this is the by 12. So it's 20 threads per inch or 12 threads per inch. So what it means is, you know, how many threads you're going to see per inch, really. And so you can see it on the taps here. You can't really see it on the die, but when I first started, these were my mandrels as well. Well, when I actually started using mandrels, other than the actual component of the pen that I just made, because that's what I used to do. But you can see that I cut off the back end of these. So for the 3/8, this was my stopper for the let's see, what's this one? Yeah, this one will fit. But this was my stopper. It would go all the way to my stopper, and then I mounted it in the chuck, and then this is how I turned it. I'm pretty sure my chuck would hold it. If not, the Jacobs chuck certainly will. But yeah, this is just how I turned, which is a part of why stuff didn't line up. I say a part of because that's definitely not the only reason it didn't work. Yeah, I tried thread finders. So these are 3/8, and then both 3/8. One's by 16 and one's by 24. So the coarseness of the thread is what it was. But yeah, I'll never forget. I was out here with the hacksaw, just grinding away on this stupid thing. And then, you know, it's like, you know what? I could have just made them out of the other material. It'd save myself a lot of time. But I didn't. So here we are. Yeah, the goal with the nuts here was to just make stoppers, because I didn't want it to go all the way up. I didn't want it to expand on this here, because if it threads and it keeps threading, it could potentially just go off and then expand all the way out, which is not good. So I thought that I'd be able to use a nut and make it stop. It didn't fail, but it didn't work great. Yeah, this one turn like this. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. if I was to turn this and it's holding it like this thing could continue to spin up the rest of the shaft here, which would be no good. And then that's how I got to the thread finder, because I was like, huh, it'll stop it. And I don't have to do any adjustments. It's already got a decent outer. And, you know, another thing that I even did, because I was stupid, is I would take the thread finder and then this piece, and then I tried to put them together, thinking that it was going to make it so I could hold this with the jaws. But yeah, don't recommend doing that. It'll work fine, but it's just not a good thing for your for your cutting tool. So I tried that as well. I tried a lot of different things, I guess. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about, you know, just figuring it out and enjoying the process. And yeah, I just enjoyed playing and figuring out and all that type of stuff. But this is how I made the pins in the beginning. I've definitely come quite a ways since then, but also I've actually kept some things similar. So it's pretty neat to look back on that and then kind of seeing that type of stuff. Spending that much time has given me the opportunity to try and be able to figure out and dissect all the different components that I'm trying to make. Like, you could simplify it and be like, yeah, all you do is you drill a hole and then you thread it. That's it. Yeah, you're not wrong. But there's a lot more style and class and flair that you can put on that makes it, you know, more refined in some ways and smoother in other ways, and things like that. Does it matter? Well, to me it does. So I'm gonna say, yeah, it matters. But yeah, I do intend on basically doing a demo of this particular thing, making just the cap and the barrel, and then showing how I did that basically. I can show also how I made a section for a Parker. It doesn't really matter what ink you use, whatever refill. Parker's just the most common, and that's probably why people say it the most. But it doesn't matter. You can design a pen around any ink refill. And so the smaller the refill you can find, the smaller the pen you can make. And so that's actually one of the things on my chopping block that I haven't really talked about yet is, well, I've got other size fountain pen nibs that I'm going to be reverse fitting and then designing a pen around it. So it'll be fun. But yeah. I wanted to make I have a lot of M13 by 1 taps and die set because I didn't know what triple start was. So once I figured out what triple start was, I was like, oh man, I got to get that triple start now because I got some reps in with what I'm doing. And then I saw the price of them and I was like, ooh, maybe I'm going to keep seeing how I can do this. But obviously, I took the plunge and it's definitely paid for the workshop. So, and traveling and pin shows and trying out different material. So it's definitely taken care of itself, no problem. But um, one of my things that I constantly think about was like preserving as much as I could. So I didn't want to like go through blanks, and I didn't want to go through. I mean, I still don't. It's just right now it's not as big of a deal to go through blanks because it is what it is. But when you're buying blanks at like, I don't know, $5-10 a blank, you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to try something out. Like, you know, I don't know. It's just one of those things where you just got to deal with it. It's going to happen. It's just the way it works. Uh, so, yeah. Um, I did end up getting the M12 tap and die set a long time ago and hardly ever used it, which is weird. Which is weird. But yeah. I think it would be pretty entertaining to show how I used to make pens. Uh, you know, because that could potentially get somebody on track to begin. Uh, but I mean, thinking about it, you kind of see where I'm at, where I was at when I was actually able to make them. Not so much um, on um, on the before times of still trying to figure it out. But yeah. Hello, hello. How you doing, Accusey? Accuse. Viewers. Suspect. But yeah. But anyway, what do you think about that, Kevin? Is that where you thought it was? Is it better or worse than you thought? Or did you have any expectations? I don't know. Yeah, ever since then I have enjoyed dissecting, refitting, rekitting, and doing that type of stuff. Once you learn how to do everything, yeah, you don't. You probably, well, I mean, you probably do, but it's still one of those things that you don't know what you don't know, and until you start trying. That's the other thing is I've trimmed it down to these things here. That's not really counting a lot of the other. Yeah, they're just nuts and bolts. Yep. Yeah. Kind of crazy, isn't it? But I hadn't seen anybody else talk about that or share that. So that's a part of why I thought it would be pretty interesting. But I will say I don't particularly uh, I personally don't like single start pens. But you know, people can do what they would like to do. It's just triple start is what uh, has come to be expected. You don't really expect to spend a lot of time unscrewing a pen. And also, when you have such large threads, uh, you grab them and they're uncomfortable. So like this one actually goes together. Uh, yeah. So this one, you know, you're holding it. If you're making a fountain pen, the section's got to be quite a bit smaller because you have to make room for the nib. So there is that to consider. Um, yeah. Mm, but some people they like to hold their fountain pens further back. That's why I just thought that's how it is. Yeah. Well, nothing is more creative than out of necessity. And it wasn't exactly necessity, it was more of determination for me. Uh, but I had to figure out how to do it. And so it's kind of weird that's the case, but yeah, you I'm sure other people have different starting points. A lot of people, a lot of other makers that go to the shows, they learn from other makers, and I'm not sure where the other makers learned from, but I just saw it, and it was one of those things. Watched some RJB 5, 6 years ago, and I was like, this is cool. But yeah. Anyway, uh, it's one of those things where I had mentioned it before that once you figure out how a magician does their trick, you might become less impressed with what it is. But on the other hand, a lot of things can be can be simplified into uh, well, things could just be simplified into things that are very easy, I guess. It's you're more impressed? Well, I've enjoyed the journey. I've enjoyed the journey. Yeah, I bought so many more things than I ever needed. All about easy. I mean, if you break anything down into enough steps, it's easy. But I wouldn't say that it's an easy thing to do. I'd say it's a simple thing to do, but not so much easy. I think one of the things that was also taking me a while was because I didn't know how to turn either very well. I didn't really know how to turn. So you simplified everything at work. That's good. That's what I've been doing. I mean, I do this for my work. But yeah. But see, it's kind of funny because uh, I bet now that you've got the cogwheels turning, you'll go out into your garage and be like, okay, where do I start? You're like, you get all the tools and you're like, oh, now what? So it is one of those things too that, figuring out how to do the process, which is why I think the process videos that I post or have post with no direction, I think is actually very beneficial. It like nudges you in the right direction, but it doesn't tell you all the things because I don't know. A part of me is like I don't want to deprive the pen maker from their journey of figuring it out. But on the other hand, it's like I know there are some people that they just want to know. And I don't mind sharing. I think it's fun. But yeah, what can you do? What can you do? Abby is very much one of those people that likes to be told what to do or how to do it. Uh, unless it's something that she's very interested in or something along those lines. But she gets frustrated that, well, I also have a teaching background, so there is that. And when I pause at the end of something, waiting for her to think about the solution, she gets pretty mad. She's like, John, I don't want to think about it. Just tell me what it is. It's like, no, just think about it for a second. You'll probably figure it out. But the other thing is you have to find people that are wanting to learn whatever it is. And that I think is uh, a part of why I just assumed that people were wanting to know what it was because their careers depended on it, on learning the information that I was teaching them. So, uh, yeah, I guess I got spoiled in that regard. Oh well. Some good apple juice. Yeah. Um, as far as taps and dies go, what you mentioned before, I wouldn't say that I'm like the best person to talk to about taps and dies. Uh, I know the specific taps and dies that I would want or need. But when it comes to like actual measuring, what I what I do is I grab it and then I grab the calipers and then I find the drill bit that goes along with that. And then I drill a hole in a piece of material and try it out. And then I do the opposite on the other one where I cut a tenon and then I'll try to put them together. And whatever thing I like to fit most is what I'll go with. So I have like a lot of little pieces that's what I do. I just take the little pieces and I'll drill a hole in it and then I'll try the other thing and um, some are pointed and some are flat. Yeah, you're talking about the taps. Yeah. So some of them are starter, some of them are bottom, and some of them are intermediate taps. So is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Is that one of your questions of which one to use? Um, well, there won't be any bottoming. So I would say if you're going for so if you have, I'll show you one example. If you have the, here you go. You could, no, you can't see that. I can see that. You can't see that. Hold on. Here we go. When you have threads like this, you measure how deep that you want to go. Oh, there we go. So you can kind of see it on this translucent blank. If I was to use intermediate taps or other taps, it would go really deep. You'd be able to see the cut mark pretty deep. But for this one, because I'm using a bottom tap or a bottoming tap, it actually just kind of stops. And I can thread it all the way in, no problem. With only like one cycle or 1.5 cycle left after it. So other than that, it's just a matter of kind of knowing those things. And when you, I'm sure you've seen it on my my bits. So this is my M10 section bit. You see how far down the mark is. That's because it's like an intermediate tap. You see where the teeth begin, about 3 teeth down, and is where it actually begins. So for that one, I end up having to go further because of that in particular. So the other thing about that is it creates a little taper at the end, or you can create a little taper at the end of the threads. And I'm sure you've seen me sand them before. That'll make it so when you're drilling in, it'll actually go in like this because you'll tap the body of the pin, and then you'll have this piece that might have a little bit of a taper on it, and so you'll end up potentially having to go further if you don't taper, because if I just try to do it, I'd have to go all the way to here on the tap. Oh, you can actually see it marked here. So you can see where the actual threads begin on the tap here. And I think this one is actually considered an intermediate. So this is a Yovo tap. The first like 3 or so, again, are, you know, progressively getting more aggressive for the threading part. Aggressive threads in this case is a very relative thing because those are super fine. Let's see. Yeah, I'll be honest, you can't really see it, so it's really a design perspective at that point. But there is a little bit of the function element of it, I would say, too. So come on now. There we go. So just like the body, or the section, I mean, you have to go a little bit further. So like the first 3 marks, like the first 3 or so, aren't actually cutting deep enough to be useful. So you have to go a little bit further. And so that's how why I've got the marks the way that I do. But yeah, it's one of those things that you just do it. Once you start doing it, you'll start seeing and learning it, and it'll start making more and more sense. Because I could tell you everything, but some stuff probably wouldn't even make sense until you started practicing it. And then there's also the element of customization that you can do however you want. You can get a different tap, but really you just get whatever you want. Get whichever one you want, really. But a lot of people get like the starter taps, and there's nothing wrong with it. The bottoming tap is really, for threading all the way to the bottom of something, and then an intermediate's in between. So I know some people can stretch that concept into an entire video, but I don't know. I think it's kind of crazy that it does last that long. I guess more visuals would be beneficial. Some suppliers are 50 per tap. No. If you're just starting, just get the tap and die set from like Harbor Freight. There's no need to go wazoo. I still use some of these things because I don't like to practice things unless I am pretty confident that they're going to be successful and have a return. Why some of them are so expensive? They're just better material is what they start off with, and then they're more precisely cut. But anytime I get a tap, I always get a tap and die set. and then I keep them together. That's a personal thing. So, except for the um, nib housings, I don't have a Yovo die or a Bach die. So, but trying to piece together those types of things is not something that I would want to do. But like Tapco, their steel, I'm pretty sure that they start off with is better. So there is that. They just start better. Um, but I've used cheap ones for quite a while. Until I learned more about it and learned my process that I was going to do. But I definitely, having the triple start, I am glad that I didn't practice with that, um, because there's a lifespan of them, and I don't ever intend on sharpening them. I would just replace them because I don't know how to sharpen them. And there are some things that I think are worth learning, and other things that, well, I don't think they're very worth learning. And I haven't decided about that. So until I cross that bridge, I'm going to just try to prolong the life of it. But yeah, I'm glad that I didn't start with the good stuff, because I would have potentially, and then by the time I was ready to start actually making something to sell, then it might not be cutting as well as I'd like for it to be. So I guess that's a thought or a consideration. One of mine at least. I used to be like that with carbide too. I didn't want to practice on anything. I wanted to make sure that it was going to be something that was going to be sold. But now I look at people that are trying to sell the first thing that they make, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Don't do that. Come on. I don't know. It's just a little weird sometimes when people try to sell like the first thing that they make, and they're like, yeah, it's good enough to sell. Like, is it? Is it? Is that what you want to be known for? I gotta ask, which one is a good point? The one about the taps, or the one of the taps and dies, or the one about selling the first thing that you make? Because that was actually one of the things that I was thinking about. Okay, well, right on. I don't know. I probably made a good 20 or 30 or so. I would say that I knew my process before I started selling them. Like, I knew it before. Uh, let's see. I took a picture of something that I saw today when I took the kids to when I took my daughter to her math teacher's class. I saw something that said, "Assess yourself." I'm reading it from my phone, and there's a novice, apprentice, practitioner, and expert, and which one describes you? So I'm a novice. I'm just starting to learn this, and I don't really understand it yet. That's a novice. If you're an apprentice, I'm starting to get it, but I still need someone to coach me through it. Yeah. I'm a practitioner. I can mostly do it by myself, but I sometimes make mistakes or get stuck. So I personally, I was at the practitioner level of this before I started trying to sell anything. And I wouldn't pre-sell anything. I would only sell something that came to conclusion, and then somebody was able to see what it was before they were going to buy it. And then as far as this list goes, I'm an expert, and that is I understand it well, and I could thoroughly teach it to someone else. So I'm still working on that part. Um, but, you know, I think some people, I think they learn enough to bring something to conclusion is like, yep, somebody's going to love it. I'm like, no, I think that you're going to give yourself a bad rep. But what do I know? And the other thing is there are some people that like that stuff either way. It depends on who it is. So I think that's also interesting. Like one of the things that I was thinking about is if I was to do something, uh, I guess this is the rundown. I would teach somebody how to do it. I would have them open up a store, and I would be the first one that would buy their pen, the first one that they made, all the way to completion. And that would more or less be uh, what I'd want from it. So I don't know. Those are just thoughts. Some of the thoughts that I have are they come back repeatedly, and that's one of them. I've thought about that multiple times. Anyway, I know that this wasn't a super exciting stream, but it is a little bit of foreshadowing, and then I guess show that I didn't start at where I'm at, and I think that's something that's valuable to see. It is nice to chill. It is. But yeah. What specifically were you looking at or wondering about for taps and dies? I was thinking about that, and yeah, the threads, the pitch, the lands, the grooves, uh, the tenons, the holes. Because one of the things that the way that I have determined the sizing that I am going to use is by trial and error. And the trial and error element of it is because um, I try it in like a in the way that I'm going to actually be doing it, because one of the things that people don't talk about is the heat. The heat actually causes the resin to relax, and so when it relaxes, it kind of gets weak, and uh, it can cause it to actually expand. Um, if it's a hollow piece or a hollow tenon, it can expand. Why are some so expensive? Um, yeah. Yeah, it's the material, how precise they're cut, where they're made, the longevity, the expected longevity of it is what I would say. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Still gonna order some. Ah, collet chuck. Did you order the PSI one or the Beal? You can't go wrong either way. You're gonna get a great outcome. Uh, yeah, you'll get a great outcome either way. They serve pretty much the same purpose. It's just what design you like better. I'd probably say the knurled one. That's the PSI one, I believe. Yeah. I just found it nicer to be able to use my hands more. Heck yeah. Well, that's awesome. When are you expecting that stuff? Have you been have you been doing any turning so far? Made some pins? Oh, you even found an adapter? Nice. That's awesome. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was thinking of getting a really tiny lathe, uh, and I needed a um, 1x8 to shoot. What is it? I don't know. It's like a point five. It might be a point five, might be a half. I don't know. It was a tiny lathe, and it would basically just be to spin stuff so I could sand it. But yeah, I hadn't gotten that yet. I'm gonna wait a bit. But I think you'll find that um you could probably do a lot of it right now. Oh, cool. Color match. Shoot, if you got into that, you could just end up staying in that too. That's a pretty interesting nook to find yourself in. And there are people that very much like matching the themes and color schemes to the dice and stuff that they're yeah. Yeah. Well, shoot, for everybody, it's crazy what kind of things people like and enjoy and stuff like that. I mean, think about it. I sit here and I nerd out over a pen or making a pen or teaching a pen. So, I mean, it's everybody's got their own thing. Everybody's quirky in some weird way. But I like it. It's fun. But yeah, you got to be careful. You get found out, then you start gaining popularity and traction. You might find yourself being called to stay there and make D&D dice. Next thing you'll know, you'll be casting your own chess sets and uh, stuff like that. Well, sometimes things will find you. Like you're on your way to something, and then something will just find you and kind of stop you there for a little bit. And you're like, you know what? I dig this. I get to do what I want, and I can maintain that, but maybe not. Maybe not. But there are some that go for quite a bit. People that people that do a really good job and have really good master sets for their silicone molds, uh, and then they do a great job sanding and polishing their dice, and then they do the painting on the recesses of the numbers and whatnot. They go hard, man, and some of those go for hundreds. But you know, what do you want to put your time into? Because some people are really, really good at it. Uh, then there's other people that don't know what good looks like, and they see something that looks different. They're like, "Yeah, that's it. I like that." So it's crazy. It is indeed. But anyway, what do you think I should do tomorrow? Should I finish shaping those Operex pins? I got to get the Orlando pins made. Uh, got some in the pressure pot. Nice. How have you been using Tim McKenzie stuff? The that resin? And how has that been going? Orlando pins? Probably. Shoot. The Orlando pins are going to be these here. Let's see. Let's switch over here. Alrighty. So purpley and orange. This is what the Orlando pins will be. Oh yeah, and I'm taking notes. Are you using a yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. Got nice shine in them. Let's see. Wait. Hmm. Are you using like a kitchen scale? And if you are, how are you doing it? A chemical scale? Well, that's probably better anyways. Um, yeah. What Abby has done is she pours one part in, well, she puts the cup on, then she tears it, and then she pours one part in, then tears it, and then pours the other part in. Uh, well, let me ask you this actually. How much are you pouring at once? What's the volume that you're using? Because sometimes the scales don't like to measure things. Well, depending on the scale, they sometimes don't like to measure things that are either too light or too heavy. So sometimes they can be a little picky about that, depending on the scale that you're using. uh, we found that for the scale that we were using, making small amounts, I think she had problems with. 6 ounce cut. Let's see. We use. Ooh, that was unpleasant. We use a 2.5 quart. Is usually what she. No, she uses even bigger than that. She uses. She uses a big one. It doesn't get filled, but a pretty significant amount of the time. Huh. Interesting. Sean, how you doing? How is Washington? Abby just got to San Fran today, and she says the weather is nice there. And it's actually pretty nice here today, so it's not that bad. Yeah. Oh. Oh yeah, that's right. How bad has that been? Uh, the damage. How bad was it? I haven't. Hmm. I hadn't really looked a whole lot at that, but hey, you're getting some time in. It's good. There's no. Also processing all the daily claims, water, HVAC, and pipes. Ooh. Ooh, man, this sounds like a doozy. How are the people sounding? They sounded more frantic than usual, or uh, anything like that. Am I doing anything or just missing Abby? Um, well, I did the whole rundown of, let's see. This is what I started off making my pins with. So I started there earlier, and then I showed some of my earlier pins that I made. Uh, show you right quick. There we go. So there's some executive pins, then some. These are like my earliest bespoke pins that actually made it to a finish line. And then here's a couple more. This is ebonite that is a ballpoint that's got a tenon that's like 10 feet long. Let's see. Um, one where the barrel of the pin's thicker than the cap. But I did start using triple start. These over here, this is probably one of my better ones when I was using single start threads. But I never sold single start thread pins. But Yeah, it's just basically a rundown of the pins that I had made previously. And then my pocket pins that I had made, uh, different designs. So these three are, well, these four actually are similar designed, just a little bit of a different shape. And then this one's different because of the cap being quite a bit shorter. Let's see. This is one of the ones that I made in my YouTube, and it's got the True Stone on it. And then for production's sake, or production wise rather, it's best to do single body. Yep. Now you're all caught up. All caught up. Kinda. Gotcha. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, yeah. Everybody's got their starting point. Yeah, I just happen to keep some of them. Not great. When are you gonna be on your way again to the next location? And also, I started the Operex. I've got them all to shaping. Boom, boom. And then the cats are also back there. Heck yeah. Let's see. I think Daisy. Ooh. I'll be going to AZ spring break. Oh yeah. Next year. I got a little while. But yeah, that's the plan. Be going to Arizona spring break. Yeah. Anywho, I think I'm actually going to head off for the evening. I think I might end up doing a video on this without streaming. That way I can just kind of power through it all. Which is harder and less interesting for me, but you know, just just power right through whatever it is. We'll be done. In Tucson. I'll be in Tucson. I was stationed there for a while, and then got family there, so it'll be fun. Will be fun. I like the desert museum, and also like the saguaro cactus. And maybe I could even borrow a motorcycle and take it up and down Mount Lemon. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. Be a fun ride, though. I tell you, it was not fun on a mountain bike. Ooh, winding down 14 hours today. Whew. It's a long one. Is that 14 hours of driving or 14 hours of working? Or just being awake? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that specifically. We put thing when we put things on the schedule, um, basically Abby's got the master schedule. So I'd have to get that. Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah, we plan on driving through there, going to the Desert Museum. 12 miles from the Saguaro National Park. It's a pretty big park. Yeah, it's really cool, especially when they're blooming, when they're in bloom. It's really cool to go through there. Computer fixing estimates. Dang. Mm. That's a long day. Long day, my friend. Yeah. Well, I hope you were able to wind down and take it easy. I will have a video going up once I am done with my stream. It's already ready and everything. So May 1st, leaving Arizona. Too hot. Yeah, I hear you. May 1st. Let's see. When is spring break typically? I gotta figure out when that is. Mm-hmm. Looks like, so it looks like late March, if I had to venture a guess. But I'm not positive. But probably late March. Yeah, wasn't turning anything today, just chilling. Just chilling. I had thought about it, but getting a little ambitious on some of the some of those things. Excuse me, moi. But yeah. we can maybe work something out. I won't be there long, so there is that. I don't really know how we'd make it happen, but it's possible. Yeah. I don't even know if we've figured out our travel arrangements quite yet, other than we're flying there. So that's about as far as we've gotten so far. But anywho, uh, well, I appreciate you, Kevin, for hanging out with me, and Sean for stopping by and hanging out. Hope you travel safe when you're going, and don't work too hard. Can't be doing 14-hour days. Good grief, that's a long time. I mean, unless you're being well compensated, I suppose. But oh, Renaissance Festival. It's funny. I think they're actually coming here. September, maybe October, November, here in the east. It's funny. Let's see. Uh, hmm. October. Yeah, it'll be October, I think. Yeah, cool. Yeah, we'll probably be able to work that out. It's plenty early enough, so we'll probably be able to work something out. Yeah, make money when you can for sure. I hear that. Trying, trying. Things are going well. Jousting live. Yeah, man, it's fun. It's fun. Although they do only hit their shields and then break the shields. Uh, we're not going to see anything like the movie A Knight's Tale, where you're seeing them get knocked off the horse and stuff. It's pretty fun though. For 2 months up in Phoenix. Wow, that's kind of that's a long. That seems like a long time for them doing that, but I guess it makes sense. It's actually probably the standard amount of time that they do because it takes them a long time to get all set up. Yeah. Hmm. But we go every year. It's fun. And then we go watch the jousting, sometimes do the wax hand and see the fairies and play games, that stuff. See the leather worker do their thing, and It's a good time. I do like it. The shattered pole. Yeah. Still haven't seen anybody get knocked off the horse, though. Be fun to see that. Somebody just getting. They'd probably be in a lot of pain, but it'd be cool to see. Not for them, but for spectators. That's why Gladiator was so popular. It was meant as a distraction for people from the real world. There's a whole city made for it. Interesting in Phoenix. I didn't know that. Really interesting. Yeah, I didn't know about that. I mean, in the Carolinas, there's the there is the city that's made for it specifically, but I don't know how it compares as far as size wise. Yeah, that's that's on my bucket list actually, to spend the couple years to become a falconer. But I don't know if it's going to end up happening. Pretty far down the road though. But I do like falconers. It's pretty fun. I've seen some of the YouTube videos of them doing it competitively in like Dubai and stuff like that, where it's pretty cool. Yeah. Anywho, I am going to get going. That way I can get a good start tomorrow. I've got quite a few pens that I've got to get made up, and a lot of other things that I've also got to get turned to a comfortable shape, like an amusement park size. Nice. And that's in Phoenix that you're talking about? It's awesome. But yeah. Yeah, these are the ones here. Those going to be for Orlando. You know, a guy in Wyoming who is a falconer. Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, you have to be an apprentice, I'm pretty sure, for at least 2 years before you can like, you know, be on your own and doing all that stuff. But I'm pretty sure it's a relatively casual 2 years. Like you got to pretty much wait for the time to go by. It's not so much that you're in school for like 2 straight years or anything like that. But yeah, it's yeah. Purple and orange is the color theme that they do. for the Orlando show. Those will be basically the show pins that we make, but have a different idea for the show pin. It's a part of the Makers Challenge. It's fun. It's a good time. That's what that's why we were in Pin World last year. And that's what the picture is on the community tab on the YouTube here. Yeah. I mean, I got to say the colors aren't exactly my favorite, but I do think they're pretty interestingly done, and so seeing how they turn out will be pretty cool. I don't anticipate sanding the inside of them. So there is that. It's like one of 7 that can have an eagle to rehab. It's crazy. That is crazy. You talking like bald eagle? Because that's crazy. That's wild. There are other eagles, aren't there? Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's just any eagle. But yeah, some of them are quite protected. Quite protected. And for good reason, though, I reckon. When did you say you were going to start streaming, Sean? It's got to be coming up here soon. Bald eagles. That's cool. Takes a level of commitment, I tell you what. And I'm glad that there are people that are willing to do it. Because I know that there's a lot of people that it's not really what they're interested in. Oh, chat's super delayed. That's not fun. That's no fun. But anywho, well, hopefully, you can. Yeah, it'd be awesome. Be awesome to teach wise one. Yeah, I don't know about that. I was hoping you'd be able to teach me stuff. about the whole streaming thing. Make it more engaging, more fun, entertaining. Not just monotone back and forth. Anyway, all right. Oh, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, Sean. It's been a little bit. Hopefully to get back in the saddle again tomorrow. Not sure what time. Yeah. Not sure what time. But that's the plan. Get back on tomorrow. Get started on another set of 1, 2, 4, 5. Just 5. Do 5. Hopefully. Hopefully I can get through 5. Drilled. Probably drilled. Not shaped. Maybe shaped. I don't know. We'll see. But until then, good sir, I hope you'll have a wonderful evening, and I will catch you next time. Take care, Sean and Kevin. Boom.